In this lesson, we will learn how to set up our first Pro Tools session. And the window you see on the screen is called the Quick Start. The Quick Start dialog helps to navigate or get you started on whether you want to use templates, create a blank session, or open a session. So right here you see the Create Session from Template, and you have a drop-down menu with multiple options. If you're a songwriter, I suggest you go through the songwriter mode and kind of navigate through these. Some of these are set up for guitarists or piano or singer-songwriters. And the reason there are multiple session names, some with lower CPU usage, is because they might have some plugins that might be a little easier on your computer usage versus others that might have a little bit more plugins on the session. And these are templates, so they're guidelines. So that means that you can switch these around, but it kind of helps the process going because some things are already created for you, like MIDI tracks, click tracks. In fact, some of these might have drum loops already on them. So you can help to navigate. So it helps to explore through these, but by any means, you don't have to start here. What we're going to explore is on Create Blank Session. When you click on Create Blank Session, you can expand the session parameters. And here you have a couple of options. So on Audio File tab, you have WAV or AIF. WAV is standard broadcast audio files that are acceptable on both Mac and PC. And AIF has been primarily a Mac, and AIF is primarily a Mac file. But these days, you can kind of get by. And AIF is a Mac. AIF is another audio format. AIF is another audio file format inherent to Macintosh, but these days you can get by using either or. But we'll use WAV. Next is sample rate. So this determines the quality or sampling rate that you're going to be recording into your session. When you start recording audio, this is going to come in handy. When you start recording audio, this is going to come in handy. Now, 44.1 is the standard CD quality. It has been since the beginning. But if you have an audio interface that supports higher sampling rates, up to 96, or some might even support 192 kilohertz, you can use those. But the thing to take note of is that if you use a higher sampling rate, it's going to take up more disk storage on your computer. So you might want to be careful whether you're using higher sampling rates. You might want to keep your recording sessions down to fewer tracks. But if track count is not an issue and you want to just stick with CD quality, you can do 44.1 or 48 kilohertz. And also there's bit depth. So 16 bits is what gets printed to a CD, and 24-bit is what's commonly used for recording. 32-bit is new to Pro Tools, and it's a floating point technology that pretty much prevents any distortion as long as you have enough headroom when you're recording. And don't worry if any of this doesn't make any sense. We'll explain as we get into further lessons on recording audio. But for now, just click on 24-bit and click OK. Now it's recommended that you have an external hard drive to keep all your sessions on, because you want to be able to Now it's advisable that you have an external hard drive where you can keep all your music sessions on. Number one, it allows you to free up storage from your computer. And number two, it allows you to use your external hard drive on a friend's computer to be able to recall sessions or collaborate. But we'll click Cancel, and we'll go to File Open, and we'll find our Pro Tools 02 Begin. And there it is. So before we move any further, I do want to configure our preferences. For that, you're going to go to Setup, Preferences, and on the display, you're going to disable Function and Details. Here on the Organize Plugin menus, choose Category Manufacturer. Then on the MIDI tab, you're going to click on Automatically Create Click Tracks in New Sessions. And lastly, on the Mixing tab, For default EQ, let's choose the EQ37 band. And for default dynamics, let's choose the BF76. And we'll click OK. Another thing that you should know is how to configure your sound card. So for this, you go to Setup, Playback Engine. And in this case, I'm using the built-in output on my computer, which means that any audio that I play in Pro Tools will come out of the speakers built into my laptop. Or if I had headphones, then they'll come out there. But if you want to use an external sound card, like a USB sound card, and if you have it plugged in, you have the drivers installed, it will show up on here. And you choose that if that's what you're going to use for plugging in your microphones, plugging in your speakers, and plugging in your headphones. The other thing that we'll get into in a further lesson is the buffer size. For now, you can leave it at 256. And if you have these options, if you're on Pro Tools 11, just enable ignore errors and dynamic plugin processing. You might not see this cache size. The reason you see it on the screen is because I'm using Pro Tools HD. And this pretty much helps for sessions to load up quicker and for the playback head to play back at any point without any hiccups. But if you don't have it, don't worry about it. So we'll click OK. One thing to know about Pro Tools is the file management. So let me go ahead and close this for now. I'll give you an example. If I create a new session from scratch, let's go to blank session, leave the settings the same, click OK. And I'm going to save this to my disk image. I'm going to call it First Song, very original. Click Save. And very quickly, I'm just going to populate it with some tracks. Let's add a couple of audio tracks, a couple of instrument tracks. And let me go ahead and record some audio. No. And by using the import audio, I can go to the resource files and bring in these loops. Click Open. Choose New Tracks, and there's my loops. So this is a quick way to just get information on there. Now I'm going to click Save, File Save, and then File Close Session. Good. So now if I go to that location, First Song, you'll see that it automatically created a folder called Audio Files. There's the First Song PTX, which is the Pro Tools session file, and the Wave Cache, which pretty much gives you visual information of the WAV files. But as you start adding to the song, you'll see more folders automatically created for you. And the reason for this is that as soon as you create a new session in Pro Tools, it creates the folder for you labeled First Song. It creates the Pro Tools session for you labeled First Song, and it automatically creates these folders. You'll see audio files, you see bounce files, rendered files. You'll see a bunch of folders there. So it's nice to have everything properly file managed for you. But you don't have to worry about that. It's just something for you to understand, that as you keep all your sessions on an external hard drive, you don't want to accidentally move files around. If you create a new session in Pro Tools, it's automatically going to do the work for you. So as we learned, this is how we configure our preferences in Pro Tools before we move on to further lessons.